children, like the rest of their lives depends on whether or not they get into these schools as like preschoolers, and trying to imagine what their life will be like 15, like 20 years down the road, based on whether or not they are accepted into this charter school or not, was just like a really big deal for me. And I think it's really important that we all focus on reforming our education system in order to make sure that these children have the best chance at making a positive impact on their lives in the end.
And at Water Visit, because what her and CP had to overcome in order to get reform in education was very inspiring, because it was obvious they had different views on each, like on life, but they overcame it, so that because they focus on the children, and that's what's most important, and this is what like social reform and community service is all about, by focusing on what's most important and making sacrifices. So that was definitely the greatest impact.
I really enjoyed the Sergeant Schreiber video, and it made me think a lot about my career intentions, and I loved when Bruce Ornstein came in to talk to us about the video, and hopefully I'll be taking his class on video for social change next semester.
Well, for me, the tutoring experience had the greatest impact. I tutor second grader Carson Triplett at Central Park Elementary School, and I'd say the most memorable thing about the semester has been being able to see him learn and grow and kind of develop as a student and as a person through the last few minutes I've been tutoring him.
I don't think that there's a particular activity that I can pinpoint, but I feel like, especially in the education class, talking about why we need to reform the educational system and talking about the achievement gap has really impacted my intellectual development, because I wasn't really aware of the issues and the severity of this problem, because the high school that I went to didn't have that, or it wasn't as drastic. And so this has become something that I'm really interested in and becoming passionate about. And so I think that it's really interesting for me.
Diane Babbage speak at Page Auditorium, instead of necessarily just expanding on the problems we've been talking about. She actually put forward real, possibly successful solutions to the problem. And I think it's something really important for us to learn, and something we can build on for improving education and making sure that everyone in this country does have equal educational opportunities.
My idea of service has definitely changed throughout the fall semester. I think it's gone from a more idealistic view to a more realistic. I think I associated service with kind of the sense of altruism. I thought that only those people who were performing service as an act of selflessness, or because they were out there because they really wanted to help the community, I thought that should be considered service. But now I see that those people who maybe are out there in the community because they just want to build on their resume, they're also performing the exact same work, and therefore it is considered service too. They may not have the same motivations, but they are helping others.
In the beginning, I always thought that service was always a positive aspect. I realized that it has both negative and positive aspects. And some negative aspects of service, even like mission trips and stuff, those usually, they're not always beneficial. There's, like you have to make sure that you understand what is wrong with the community, and then reevaluate afterwards, make sure you aren't doing more harm. And as Dr. Eric Malin said, that you have to at least not harm the community. So sometimes some services don't even benefit, like as long as you're not harming them, which I thought was a different aspect than in the beginning when I first entered.
Previously, I'd really just thought about the student and the organization of service, but to have a really effective impact, you need that relationship with the community partners. Through our service in the charter school, we had that feedback and that reflection to be able to really get the most out of the service experience for us and for that student. I've learned that service isn't necessarily always beneficial to the community, and like it can do more harm than good, whereas like before I thought service was always just beneficial to both the ones providing it and the ones receiving service. So but I've also learned that through effective programs and through effective evaluations and reflections, that the
benefits of service learning outweigh the risks.
My view of service from the first day changed from being something that had to be really grand and had to be something altruistic, something that you have to go out of your way to do, to something that's really a day-to-day action, as Samuel said, like just giving companionship to an individual is a sense of service. So that's really how it changed from the first day to now.
At first, I didn't think service as a thing that is really tangible. At first, think service must be addressing something really big, really grand, and this actually scares me, keep me away from service. But after doing the service in the Central Park and also learning in the classroom, it feels like you have to approach service with a very modest way. That is the best way to really achieve change or a result.
When you're doing service or you're going into a different country, for example, you can't just go in saying or thinking, I'm American and I know everything and I know how to solve your problems. You have to go in, you have to learn from them and learn about the people.
Race isn't real. It's really only a myth created by society, separating people.
I think the most important thing is kind of appreciation of how complex and how relative things are, like racial formation or service learning or civic engagement. And second, in the face of that kind of crippling relativism, how do you do anything? How do you stop from saying, well, I just give up and I'm just not going to do anything? And how do you say, well, how can I take an actionable stance on these very relative and complex issues? So, kind of with the models that I've seen, like Du Bois and Booker T. Washington and all these people who do service learning and civic engagement, I have a kind of way of figuring out what should I do in the face of these circumstances.
Whether service is more valuable at the community level or whether it's more valuable in a foreign country or even another state. Before coming into this focus cluster, I used to think that my service would be more desirable in another area where the majority of the population is living in poverty. And now I realize, that maybe isn't the case. I think it's really important to give back to your own community, to those people around you that are living locally that are in need.
We came up with a Venn diagram, including the three classes: the education class, the anthropology of race, and the public policy class. Grant and I worked together to come up with, decide where the three classes overlapped within each other. We decided that the anthropology of race class and the social justice class overlapped in the ideas of poverty, gentrification, equality, and power struggles. That the anthropology of race class and the civic engagement class overlapped in the discussion of that nothing happens in a vacuum and the idea of power relations. And the social justice class and the civic engagement class overlapped in the idea of K-12 education, social justice, government failure, and education in development. And for the overarching theme of the knowledge and the service of society cluster, we have come up with a theory.
Alright, so our theory of what knowledge in the service of society is that we have a problem. And from our problem, we do research to create an observation. And from our observation, we use our research to create a theory of solution. From this theory of solution, which essentially is an idea that we have to solve a problem, we use the theory and implement it to solve the problem. But what we see a lot of times is we don't actually solve the problem. And instead, what we cause is more problems, or we come back to the same problems that we had before. But what we actually create in this process is knowledge. We learn how things should work and how they don't work, and how we can create knowledge in the service of society. So for our definition, we come up with the overarching thing. That knowledge in the service society is the information gained in an attempt to solve a societal issue that acts as the foundation for the next stepping stone for a permanent solution.
There's so many things that spin on this playground.
Hold on tight, Lauren. Here we go.
Whoa!
Whoa,
Okay, hold on tight this time.
Hold on, Lauren. Yes, you can. Okay, that's enough. Okay, let's do something else.
Dizzy? Uh-oh. Ah!
There was one time when we were at Central Park and Audrey and I finished our work. I forget what we were working on. But everyone, or I guess another class was out at recess, and so we went to go play. And Becky, Ray, and I, along with our 3 kids, were I don't know, we were in the yard playing, they were climbing, and I showed them this trick my cousin showed me, where if you take a book and you hold it above your head, you spin around 10 times and slam it on the ground and try to jump over it, you get dizzy and fall. And it was fun to try that with the kids. It was really funny to have 2nd graders falling over in the least terrible way. I set it off.
Alright, thanks, Darren.
So the funniest story I guess I have, I don't know, I don't think it's that funny, but maybe on the day it was. So in the very beginning of Focus, we didn't really know each other, and Izzy's birthday was in the very beginning of the year, and I just remember everyone telling me happy birthday because we kind of look alike, but after you get to know us, I don't think we look alike anymore. But it was just funny because everyone felt really bad after I said I'm not Izzy, but I didn't really care because it was funny anyways.
One thing that I still enjoy or find funny is the van ride we had when we went to Atwater's house. It took us like 45 minutes to reach there when it was supposed to take only 15 minutes. But I really enjoyed the van ride, especially because I got to see more of the room, which otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see, and that was really fun.
So Andrew, do you like anything on your food?
I don't really like anything on my food except for salt. I really like salt on my food.
Yeah? So there's this one time at our Focus dinner where Andrew covers his plate in salt, and I'm like, Andrew, what are you doing? Like, that's a lot of salt.
The food wasn't very salty to me, and so I just poured a lot of salt on it, and I got all my friends' salt and poured it all on there, and it was really good food at the time.
And then Professor Malin walks by, and he's like, we're like, what's the matter? And he's like, what do you say?
Oh, guys, this food is very salty, isn't it? And he hadn't put any salt on it.
So it was really funny.
And I guess you had to be there, so...
I'm sexy and I know it. 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 I'm sexy and I know it.